Go ahead and introduce yourself.
Okay, I am Gregory Blunt. I am a composer, a musician, and most of all, I am an artist.
So I understand you're from Sacramento, just came back to Sacramento. What are you looking to accomplish now that you're back home?
I am looking for pretty much any composition gigs. To be able to either compose for films, television shows, jingles for businesses, video games, which is why I'm here, and just anything that has to do with composing, I want to do.
So for those who may have just popped in, we are broadcasting live from the 2017 Global Game Jam in Sacramento, but we're in Elk Grove, California, still, a suburb of Sacramento if you're not familiar with the area. And how did you get into music? What is your background? Where did you come up with this love of, I want to play all of these instruments? Because there's a bunch here next to him on the ground that we will show you in a minute.
Actually, it started off as in sixth grade. A friend of mine, one of my best friends at the time, said, "Hey, let's play trumpet together." So I said, "Okay, sure." And so we decided to join the band and play trumpet. And it sounded horribly, and we're just horrible at it. We both continued on into high school, and I fell in love with it more and more. Unfortunately, my friend, he decided to drop it because he didn't like it, and he stopped. And I think close to my senior year in high school, I decided to pursue music as kind of a career. I wanted to originally go as a trumpet performance major to do trumpet. But my first semester in college, I fell in love with music theory. Usually people do not do that. Usually people hate and despise music theory. But I loved it. I just loved all the things. I picked them up really well. I even went to other students and helped them with their theory homework or helped them understand the concepts of music theory. And it just took off for me, and that's when I decided I wanted to be a composer. And I couldn't see myself doing anything else. As time went on, I transferred to another school, got married, and had a few kids along the way, and we just continued to learn about music composition, had private lessons, had anything that I could get, basically. And so I just graduated 6 months ago, and I'm here looking forward to good composition gigs. So.
Congratulations on completing school. I was also a band geek. I played clarinet in 5th grade through high school, did marching band, was student conductor at one point, and but like your friend, I decided to go a different route. So I'm also a singer too, and I don't sing anymore. I stick to my karaoke nights and my Broadway show tunes, and that's it. But I can admire someone who followed through and who really found an area that they love so much. So in saying that, what are some of your inspirations?
My family. It kind of came down to the point, because you always hear how, how are you going to be able to provide for your family with as a music career kind of thing. And that's something I'm not worried about. My wife and I, we both kind of grew up in not the wealthiest families, and so we learned how to kind of budget and use our money well. But I've taken other numerous jobs, kind of random jobs, just to provide.
Yes.
And a lot of them I just come home and I don't feel very good. I come home and I don't want to really do anything. Whereas the days where I've gone and had composed, I come down and like, hi wife, let me help you with whatever you need help with. And I'm happy and joyful.
Yes.
And so I love the idea of coming home happy to my family and being able to enjoy, enjoy life 24/7 each day. So just being able to have that idea, an ideal of coming home happy, doing what I love, is what drives me the most. I even have all those all-nighters where I have to hurry up and finish this project, due in 2 days or whatever. And so I have those all-nighters, and even through the all-nighters, I'm like, this is awesome. I love doing this. And so that drives me. Doing it drives me to continue to do it.
Because it doesn't feel like work at that point.
Right.
It's something that, I mean, your energy is obviously there. And I think if there's anybody watching who's looking for someone with a spirit for it and an energy for it, they can definitely find that with you. Now, when we were talking before we jumped on Twitch, you had mentioned that you would like to eventually compose for a TV show, and ultimately your goal is for cartoons?
For cartoons. I'd love to do cartoons. One, television shows have episodes and different things, so it's a little bit more stable. It's not just one big project and then I gotta go look for work again. It's still a big project, and then there's another season, hopefully. So that's the
come on, writers.
That's the idea for my family, just something a little bit more stable. And I mean, cartoons, come on. I grew up watching cartoons, and I love the music from them. Some of my favorites are, the Batman animated series, and it's just, I have those childhood memories of watching television, watching the cartoons and everything, and remembering the music from them, and I want to be able to do that and help kids kind of have good music in their lives as well.
Do you feel like, reality shows has become a big thing over the last probably 15 years now. Even kids' cartoon programming is not what it was when we were growing up. There's so much innuendo now, and it's not innocent like it used to be. Even Batman, when we were growing up, it was just Batman.
Right.
It's not like the Batman Lego trailer now where he's, saying this and doing that, and granted it's for a different audience, but what can people expect from the music that you compose?
Right. Well, I am more classically trained. I believe in having good quality and clever music. There's one thing where I believe that in almost everything that comes in a big project, whether it's video games or films or whatever, I believe the separate parts that make them come together, if they're looked at separately or listened to separately, and still it makes sense and it sounds good, and you can hear the cleverness or see the cleverness in it, in each individual part, I think it makes such a better whole as a whole. Whereas if you were to take the music away from something and listen to it, can you sit there and listen to it by itself, or would you get bored? And I believe in being able to have that high quality music in projects like that, where they come together. Even like in cartoons, speaking of cartoons, you have the artwork where every frame, there's that YouTube guy out there that said, you know, the every frame a painting. I totally believe that everything you do, every note is music. Every frame is a painting. Everything that makes a whole. I guess it's the concept of what they call gestalt, where there's little parts, but they can be separate. But when you bring them together, it makes it even better than when they were separate.
So we've done a bit of talking now.
Yeah.
One more question before I ask you to play just a little something to, prove that you are who you say you are. How many different instruments can you play?
Well, I started off with trumpet, and then I play a little bit of piano, which I didn't bring a keyboard, but
that'll be for next time.
Ukulele is probably my second after my trumpet. Is probably the one I'm better at. I like it more than guitar for me because it's a challenge to be able to find complicated chords with just 4 strings. For example, if you're trying to find a C sharp 13 chord and you only have 4 strings to be able to play that, it's fun to be able to find, kind of that puzzle thing of be able to find how can I play this, how can I miss, certain notes, or not missing certain notes, but like omit certain notes to be able to make it sound like a 13 chord. So, but I mean, so the ukulele is definitely a big one, and then I have a lot of experience with different percussion. I did. In fact, actually, surprisingly, it's funny. Drum set is probably one of the harder things for me to do. But other percussion things I have. Let's see. Other instruments. I've played violin. I've played flute, which I can't play anymore because I don't have any feeling in my lower lip from a past surgery thing.
Because your embouchure is very important.
Yes.
I remember.
Yep. And then, just, I don't know. I feel like I can learn them really quickly. So whatever is given to me, I'm like, oh, okay, I can kind of figure this out. Many instruments.
So I have another question now, because I feel like we could go on and on and on,
Yeah.
and it's been like 12 hours already, and we probably should have had this conversation earlier in the day.
That's fine.
What would you like to see from the Sacramento creative arts community? There's a lot of change coming about. The city of Sacramento just offered a Rails grant program to the tech community. That was $1 million. One of our participants here in the Global Game Jam is a recipient of that, $50,000. So they're moving towards accelerating the game development scene here. Just a couple weeks ago or last week, the new mayor, Steinberg, he awarded, I think, another $1 million for creative arts here in the city of Sacramento. So this probably changed a lot since you were home.
Yeah.
What would you like to see as someone who's part of that community?
I would like to see the smaller, kind of the suburbs almost kind of get together, or as themselves, and see more of a community there. For example, and I'm actually starting to see it more, or like things like parades, like just a small community parade in a small suburb. I think it was like North Highlands or somewhere. Somebody did one recently, a parade. Things like that where there's art and different. And it doesn't even have to be art. It could be projects of whatever that will help people become better as they serve one another, kind of thing, and it's a service to yourself. And that's what I would like to see, is more of the smaller communities get together and do more things. Where instead of a huge thing, for example, I've had to, this game developers thing, it's great for Sacramento, but I'd like to see more where, more game developing stuff, maybe within a certain section. And I believe it can happen. It's just getting people to know, or I guess getting people to be able to separate time and be able to have the drive to be able to do it. Because I believe there are people out there. I believe there are a lot more people who would be interested in this game developers kind of thing, or any kind of projects, and it doesn't just stop at the city area level. It can keep coming down to more local.
And it's really about that shift now. Would you agree in that? Because you've been around enough to see how people in the Bay Area, people in Los Angeles, people in Austin kind of conduct themselves. Whereas in our region, whether it's Sac County, Placer County, they're still more in hobbyist mode.
Right.
But you, for example, are trying to go full-fledged business mode.
Right.
So I think that's where that shift from community-based to more coming togetherness is important, because more conversations like that need to happen.
Right. Right, I agree.
Well, on behalf of the Sacramento Game Development Group and IGDA Sacramento, we want to keep making connections like that, because there are so many different disciplines that go into game development,
right,
which is really exciting, and that's how you showed up.
Yep.
I think we met on Twitter. Or maybe you found
it was a Facebook group,
okay.
And I saw the post, so then I went on and clicked the link, and then it just kind of tumbled in from there. It's like, oh, join the Twitter thing, and I was like, okay, and so I just kind of went. So
musician, game development, I think we're still trying to teach, the area community that it's not just, Grand Theft Auto and Madden. There are other things going on. So it's so important to have people like you show up, and I've done enough blabbering now. Are you open to playing a little something?
All right. Let's do this ukulele, because the trumpet might blare things.
But he did play it this morning when he was warming up, and we were like, where is that coming from?
I don't know what to play now. I'm all. We could do. I don't know. There's what's that?
Are you composing something for one of the teams here this weekend?
I will be. I've still been working on a lot of sound design and sound effects.
So what's the premise of their game, and how do you fit into that component?
So basically, this game is about this ship that's kind of shoots these other guys that come, and then there's these gravity waves that are created, and they kind of make things a little bit more difficult to shoot, because it pulls in the bullets or different things. And so what I've been doing right now, whenever there's a firing of the ship, the firing of the ship is me playing the trumpet.
Oh.
So I just went into the trumpet, and it made a nice sound, and then I just kind of tweaked it a little bit, added a phaser to it. Phaser on top of it, layered it, and then now they're using the sound as firing, the ship firing bullets kind of thing. And then another one is an explosion, and for that I just kind of blew into the microphone, just kind of. And then it also with the explosion. I think I did like a kind of thing just to let things ring on the ukulele, and then I tweaked it and added a little bit of a phaser to that so that it would distort and change the sound. But yeah, and then for the music, I've been trying to come up with a kind of a start title and then a ending title, kind of ending music, and then I'll be doing the in-between music, make a loop kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
So, but yeah, that's basically has been my job being able to do that, and then making sure that the volume is correct and the sound's good when you implement it into the programming. So.
Working with the best environment that you have at this point in time for a 48-hour game development hackathon, because this morning I heard this gentleman snapping his fingers down the hallway and just kind of popping into offices, and I'm like, I bet he's testing the sound in there.
Yeah.
Because we're in a co-working space, it's not a real studio.
No, yeah. So even here, you can kind of hear a little bit of a flutter echo going on because of these parallel walls. But you work with it, what you got.
So for a real legitimate sample of what you are capable of doing, how can people find you?
I have a website currently. I'm using mainly a Wix website currently, and so I'm using the free version because I haven't been getting as many gigs as I was wanting.
Yes.
So, but it's gwblunt .wixsite.com/gwblunt. And so that is where you can find me, or you can find me on Facebook. I have a Facebook page, even Gregory Warren Blunt. And then, yeah, I'm pretty much anywhere. Most social media, you should be able to find me. If you search Gregory Warren Blunt, you'll probably find me. So, yeah.
I'll be sure to share that on all our social media channels as well. That way people can find you, because I feel like this interview was so informative.
Yeah.
Well, I'm not going to drill you anymore because it's been a long day, but thank you for taking the time to speak with me and to further our conversation from earlier and to share your talents with everyone else. And if there's anything I can do to help get you where you'd like to go, whether it's just introducing you to someone, I'd be happy to do that.
Awesome. Thank you very much.
Okay, bye people. We're going to stop this after oh, he's playing. Cool. And we are broadcasting live from the 2017 Global Game Jam in Sacramento, but we're in Elk Grove, California, still, a suburb of Sacramento if you're not familiar with the area. And how did you get into music? What is your background? Where did you come up with this love of, I want to play all of these instruments? Because there's a bunch here next to him on the ground that we will show you in a minute.
Actually, it started off as in sixth grade. A friend of mine, one of my best friends at the time, said, "Hey, let's play trumpet together." So I said, "Okay, sure." And so we decided to join the band and play trumpet, and it sounded horribly, and we're just horrible at it. We both continued on into high school, and I fell in love with it more and more. Unfortunately, my friend, he decided to drop it because he didn't like it, and he stopped. And I think close to my senior year in high school, I decided to pursue music as kind of a career. I wanted to originally go as a trumpet performance major to do trumpet. But my first semester in college, I fell in love with music theory. Usually people do not do that. Usually people hate and despise music theory. But I loved it. I just loved all the things. I picked them up really well. I even went into other...
Go ahead and introduce yourself.
Okay, I am Gregory Blunt. I am a composer, a musician, and most of all, I am an artist.
So I understand you're from Sacramento, just came back to Sacramento. What are you looking to accomplish now that you're back home?
I am looking for pretty much any composition gigs. To be able to either compose for films, television shows, jingles for businesses, video games, which is why I'm here, and just anything that has to do with composing, I want to do.
So for those who may have just popped in on completing school, I was also a band geek. I played clarinet in 5th grade through high school, did
Gotcha.
marching band, was student conductor at one point, and but like your friend, I decided to go a different route. So I'm also a singer too, and I don't sing anymore. I stick to my karaoke nights and my Broadway show tunes, and that's it. But I can admire someone who followed through and who really found an area that they love so much. So in saying that, what are some of your inspirations?
My family. It kind of came down to the point, because you always hear how, how are you going to be able to put students and help them with their theory homework or help them understand the concepts of music theory. And it just took off for me, and that's when I decided I wanted to be a composer. And I couldn't see myself doing anything else. As time went on, I transferred to another school, got married, and had a few kids along the way. And we just continued to learn about music composition, had private lessons, had anything that I could get, basically. And so I just graduated 6 months ago, and I'm here looking forward to good composition gigs. So.
Congratulations.